This is going to change the Bloodline forever. Now we know that we are getting the match between Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa for the Ulafala Tribal Combat at the January 6th Raw on Netflix debut. We learned that on this week's edition of SmackDown. But the question is, how is this really going to impact everything on the road to WrestleMania 41? And how is it going to impact the future of the Bloodline? Well, it's all going to change. And we're going to talk about that shortly. I keep telling you guys, hit that subscribe button. Lots of daily content here on Wrestling Reaction leading into the Royal Rumble season, WrestleMania 41 season, and we got a lot of stuff coming on perhaps where WWE is headed with the Bloodline. It seems like we're starting to connect some dots to see how this is going to unfold. Appreciate your support of the channel. All right, so we know the match is happening now. No surprise, right? We knew coming off Survivor Series, that was what they were pushing, was after Roman Reigns and CM Punk, Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso defeated Solo Sikoa's team at that show, they started pushing, well, that's great and all, but who still has the Ulafala? Who is still technically the tribal chief? Well, it's Solo Sikoa, because he still has what he has continued to use for the power, right? He's talked about it, how this is the one thing that even Solo himself has admitted that whoever has this is the rightful tribal chief. They are the one that holds all the power in the Bloodline. Well, it's been Solo for a while now. Roman Reigns went away after losing the title at WrestleMania 40. Now he's back, and we know what he wants. He wants to actually be the tribal chief again, not just being, chanted the OTC and all this other stuff. He wants to actually physically have what he was given by his father. And Roman Reigns alluded to that on SmackDown. Roman Reigns back in control of the Bloodline. Well, he can have it if he beats Solo Sikoa on Raw a month from now. But of course, the question now becomes, what is going to happen regarding the future of the Bloodline if Roman Reigns does in fact beat Solo Sikoa? A couple theories I brought up before, and you guys know what they are. Solo has come up short in the biggest matches of his career, and a lot of them have happened this year, right? You look at the one-on-one matches with Cody Rhodes, the opportunities to bring the WWE Undisputed title to the Bloodline. Not just have the power of the Bloodline, but also have the championship, the biggest one of them all. But yet Solo has come up short both times. When you look at the match at SummerSlam, when you look at the match in the steel cage in the USA Network SmackDown debut, Solo lost both of those matches. And now, what else has happened, right? You've had Solo take a loss at Bad Blood when The Rock comes back after the show, all that. Solo also takes the loss at Survivor Series. So there is a theme here that each time everything is seemingly on the line, Solo is not yet ready to take that next step and do what he needs to do. Sure, he's had some wins and some multi-man tags and those kind of things, but those wins, in the grand scheme of things, are somewhat meaningless. It's all about the things that bring you the most power, and that is where Solo now is in a position where if he comes up short again, well, that's not going to be good for his future. Why? Because, well, there are two people who could be lurking and wondering, all right, is this exactly what this new version of Bloodline needs? Is a Solo Sikoa with no Ulafala, with no actual tribal chief tag, and someone who has lost yet again to the arch rival, right? The enemy, Roman Reigns. Is that really what the future of the Bloodline needs to look like? Is someone like that leading the way? One of the obvious choices, of course, could be Jacob Fatu, right? Because Jacob Fatu loves Solo Sikoa right now. He loves the man. He's told us time and time again. But if Solo is no longer in power, well, could the mercenary, Jacob Fatu, and the other mercenaries, Tama Tonga and Tangaloa, could they then be for hire for someone else, right? And we use the mercenary term because that's really what Solo kind of brought them in as, right? They were hired guns who came in to destroy what Solo thought, was the enemy. And now this is kind of the new version of the Bloodline, a more ruthless and aggressive type version of the Bloodline, right? But now, of course, it all comes back to one person. And I keep thinking about this visual because this is the one we talked about a while back, many months ago, when we were trying to figure out where they go from here. This was in the build-up to WrestleMania 40 and everything like that. But I said this is the one thing that keeps coming up each time, is that you're seeing that there is starting to be that rift and a clear divide between what Solo Sikoa initially came into, and that was being part of this fun bloodline with everyone else, right, with his brothers and all this. Everything was great. They were all on the same page, but you started to see drift a little bit away from his brothers and the Bloodline. Physically, too, as you can see, when he starts to move closer and closer to where he was standing next to The Rock. He wasn't just over with the other guys anymore. He was moving closer and closer towards The Rock. We had some of those sort of backstage teases and all that where it was kind of clear that The Rock was sort of taking an interest in Solo Sikoa. And so everything happened from there, right? Roman loses at WrestleMania 40. Solo tries to take power. And now Solo says the thing about how it's all part of the plan. After Bad Blood, The Rock comes back and all this. And we've mentioned all the different ideas. Could The Rock be pulling the strings all along? But could it also be a situation where The Rock has sat back and given Solo this opportunity? And now Solo is going to come up short and give Roman Reigns back the one thing that the final boss himself cannot afford to let Roman Reigns have back, right? And that is all the power with the Ulafala to be the tribal chief. And so that is where we get to with the January 6th Raw on Netflix debut. Roman Reigns beats Solo Sikoa. The Rock makes his return. We know he's going to be on this show for all the rumors that are out there about The Rock not being at WrestleMania 41 and all that. That's great. But I think he's going to be on this show because it's the biggest Raw they've ever done, the biggest television show they've ever done, which technically would be streaming now on Netflix. But you get the point. This is going to be something that is going to set in motion the future of the Bloodline. This one match, everything is on the line for both Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa. The winner has what they want. They are the tribal chief. The loser, which again, if this is Solo Sikoa, it is going to change everything because now we're going to get to what we've all been waiting for, and that is, in some way, shape, or form, The Rock is going to have to insert himself into this to try to get back the power. And the question is, will he use Jacob Fatu? Will he use Tama Tonga and Tangaloa? Is that how this is going to go? When we talk about the trademark Bloodline hug, or we've seen that time and time again, right? Solo gives Jimmy the hug. Roman's given other people the hug in the past. Solo and Jacob Fatu have had that same hug. Are we going to eventually get the scenario where Solo is the person on the wrong end of this? He's taken out because he no longer has what he needs to keep himself in this position, and the others are going to say, we've decided to follow someone else, and that person perhaps could be the final boss. Now, of course, the question is, The Rock's not going to be on WWE television every single week, so how do you continue to progress the story, perhaps beyond WrestleMania 41, if that's, again, the direction we head in with something like that? Well, it's a great question, because we've got to figure out exactly how they're going to navigate this and what's next for Solo, right? Because if he is the person who is kicked out of this group, let's say, I don't necessarily think it's going to happen on the Raw on Netflix. Possibly it could if they want to expedite things, but let's say it comes after WrestleMania 41. You start your next year of storylines and all that, and then we kind of get into whatever happens there. Well, it's all really going to depend on, like we said, if The Rock is actually going to compete at WrestleMania 41 and who's he going to face. The Rock's already said he's coming back for Cody Rhodes, right? Well, in this scenario, he has to somehow align himself with Roman Reigns. Probably, again, if they ever have that match, it's going to happen at a WrestleMania. It's probably not going to happen anywhere else. But if The Rock's coming back for Cody first, then you have to somehow come up with a scenario where The Rock and Roman Reigns are tied together into, again, a match somehow. Could they still go with a triple threat? We've brought up those possibilities before, right? But these are all the things that are going to determine the Bloodline's future. And while this one big match is huge and really is putting everything on the line for Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa, the future of the Bloodline and how WWE now uses the Bloodline after this show on January the 6th is all going to be determined by what The Rock does, what Jacob Fatu does, and all of these things that have been building and building and building. They've given us all these teases. They've given us the hints that are out there about how this is going to go. But now we really find out where we go from here and see how this is all going to play out with every single person part of this. If Roman gets his power back, what does that mean for the others? Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, Sami Zayn. They're kind of going their own way again, right? Jimmy Uso made the promo on SmackDown. It's the year of Big Jim, 2025. Does that mean Jimmy's going to go it on his own? How does that work out now with everyone there? If Solo loses, we mentioned all the different possibilities for him moving forward as part of the Bloodline, or maybe not. Maybe Solo now has to go it on his own before he eventually works his way back to the Bloodline somehow, some way. And then all the members, the mercenaries, Jacob Fatu, Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa, and then, of course, the big one, the final boss. Because just because the Roman Reigns wins the Ulafala back and becomes the tribal chief again, he still has to go through the person whose name says it all, the final boss. He is still the final stop for Roman Reigns in all of this, and it's going to happen at some point. We just don't know when. We don't know if it's going to be WrestleMania 41 or beyond, but we know that this is the match that is going to change everything for the Bloodline because the stakes have never been higher. Coming out of Survivor Series for all parties involved. This is it. This is what it's all been built around, right? The necklace, the Ulafala. The power is all there, and now we're going to see what that means for not only Roman and Solo, but for The Rock and how he is inserted into the Bloodline storyline heading into WrestleMania 41 season and beyond into 2025. So, there you go, guys. There's some thoughts on what could happen with this whole deal. How do you see it playing out? What are your predictions? Give me your early predictions for Roman Reigns versus Solo Sikoa for the Ulafala Tribal Comeback, January 6th. The Raw on Netflix debut. Hit that subscribe button on your way out. Lots more stuff and lots more theories. I've got some other interesting ideas for how they could do this match. We'll talk about it leading into Tribal Combat, January 6th. Appreciate you guys watching as always. Let me know your thoughts on what's going to happen with this match. Roman Reigns versus Solo Sikoa, and what does it mean for The Rock?